The signs of our coming destruction were clear to anyone that had eyes with which to see. But as is common in human events, only a few people believed what they were seeing. It was much easier for the unwashed masses to bury their heads in the sand and simply continue on inside the bliss of their self-imposed ignorance. It started gradually, with the major powers jockeying to position themselves for the inevitable global economic collapse. Keynesian economic policies quickly increased the national debt of all the major powers to levels 3 or 4 times their GDP. Everything came to a loggerhead in late 2022 as the dollar, the world's reserve currency, collapsed and set off a worldwide economic Armageddon. This prompted the Chinese invasion of Taiwan and the Indian invasion of Pakistan. Within a month, the hermit nation of North Korea launched a nuclear device from a submarine off the west coast of the United States. It exploded above the central U.S., with the ensuing electronic magnetic pulse hurling America's technology back to the Stone Age. This prompted a massive response by the United States, which set off a full-scale atomic release by the other nuclear powers. It was all over before anyone understood what had happened. 6,000 years of human history destroyed in the space of a few hours. The few that survived the Great War entered the worst time in all of human history, a time colloquially known as the Maddening, in which looting, murder, genocide, and cannibalism reigned unabated. Over time, settlements arose from the destruction, where like-minded people pooled their resources together to form new enclaves of civilization. But as these groups expanded, they learned of the existence of other groups that had done the same. It did not take long before the old ways of suspicion, deceit, and covetousness surfaced their ugly heads once again. So, we have come full circle inside a Faustian wheel of bondage: faith, courage, liberty, abundance, selfishness, complacency, apathy, dependence, and back into bondage, inside the ashes of a fallen land.
Good evening, and welcome to the Solo Gamers Club. Tonight, we're going to play Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game from Fallen Dominion Studios. In this playthrough, we'll be adding in the elements of the Journey into Darkness expansion. This expansion offers 2 solo variants for us to try. In this playthrough, I'll be using Variant 2 with a moderate challenge level. This means that we'll be playing against 2 other factions and rolling twice on the opposing faction town events chart. The Variant 2 victory conditions instruct us that to win we must achieve 20 prestige or 80 town health before any of the other factions. In the game, the player acts as the leader of a post-apocalyptic colony of survivors. As the leader, it is your responsibility to see that the colony flourishes in both town health and prestige. You must administer to the town's defenses, finances, and in the outfitting of a party of gatherers, making sure to supply them with the equipment, weapons, ammunition, and transportation they'll need to keep the colony thriving. We begin the setup by separating and removing all red dot cards from the action deck and the 9 non-player mercenary cards. We're going to shuffle them together and create a red dot action deck. We'll place that face down near the board. Next, we have removed all the red dot cards from the encounter and mission decks and those have been placed back in the box. All the other decks now are shuffled and ready for play. We've rolled 2d10 d100 dice and placed all 7 of our mission counters on the map. And we're going to be playing as the Sons of Neptune. Our starting location is going to be in Grand Haven, Michigan. And we're going to begin the game with 2 town resources, communication center, and water and supplies. Our faction perks include Hidden Agenda. We begin the game with 2 additional action cards. River Traders. Each effects phase you may draw a spoils card. To keep it, pay a random player 1/2 of its value rounded up in salvage coins. In this case, it'll be paying the bank. And then we have Anchors Aweigh. When your town is the target of an action card or world card effect, you may roll 1d6. On a 1, ignore its effects. And finally, we have Amphibious. Your party may move through the Great Lakes. Each lake costs 1 salvage coin and 1 movement. You cannot end your move deed on the water. We begin the game with 6 characters, 10 spoils cards, and a total of 5 action cards. Normally we were entitled to 3 action cards, but our faction perks, Hidden Agenda, allows us to begin the game with 2 additional action cards. And now let's take a look at our characters, spoils, and action cards, and then we're going to equip our town player mat with those elements. First character is Lee Watts, the sheriff, and he says, "We need to bring law and order to the chaos out here. The people deserve justice." Next we have Dimitri the Cleaner, faction hitman, and he says, "Show me the target, my friend." Next is Jane Doe, amnesiac with a dark past. She says, "I don't remember anything before the accident, but since then, I've been places you'd never even dream of going." Then we have Paul Bailey, bootlegger, and he says, "This is my shot to make amends for my past. I won't ever fail you." And then we have Sifu Khan, Kung Fu instructor. He says, "You wish to fight me? A harmless old traveler? Then let this be your first lesson." And lastly, we have Madison Hall, self-centered businesswoman. And she says, "I'm a survivor, plain and simple." Our starting equipment starts with biomedical kit, a militia rifle, a vehicle, semi-truck with trailer, another vehicle matching Baja buggies, melee weapon, extra rusty cleaver, and some party equipment, ranged weapons, 5 classic 45 caliber pistols. And then we have expired pre-war Liberty card, a book, Junior Fireside Camper's Guide, and another vehicle, gyrocopter. And lastly, we have some alcohol, case of excellent whiskey. And our starting action cards are going to be Reaver Witch Doctor, Trojan Horse of Kegs, Skill My Boy, Crossroads, and Leadfoot. And now we're going to assemble our starting team. We'll be using, of course, 5 of our 6 characters, and 1 will be placed in the town roster reserve. Now it's time to set up and assemble our town rosters. And I like to start this out by analyzing the characters that I have available to me. So I've put those into a column, and then we can kind of look at the different capabilities as a whole and analyze what we are lacking and what we're strong in. It ends up we have a total of 37 combat, 33 survival, 42 diplomacy, 31 mechanical, 37 technical, and 35 medical. Now our team consists of a total of 5 players, so one of these 6 players is going to have to be placed in the town roster and can come into play at a future time. So knowing that we have our lowest value is mechanical, it's obvious that we would be more likely to get rid of the lowest value mechanical players, which would be the 5th or 3rd player in this sequence. And our highest value is diplomacy. We have 42 there, so that we don't have to worry too much about that. The next lowest category is survival. So the player with the lowest values of mechanical and survival would probably be this player here, the 5th player, or possibly the 6th player. We'll take a look at those more closely. It's Lee Watts and Madison Hall. So I think considering the special abilities that are available, Lee Watts gives us +1 to prestige. Madison Hall, her connective abilities aren't so good, so I think we're going to get rid of Madison Hall. We'll place her into the town roster, and we're going to end up using these 5 players then as our starting team. I've laid out the 5 starting characters that we have, and now what we're going to attempt to do is to pair up our spoils cards with the characters that will give them the maximum benefits. And a lot of that would happen by trying to take advantage of these link abilities that each of them have. As an example, Dimitri the Cleaner gains benefits from handguns. Each one grants him a cumulative +2 to combat and +1 to survival. So we're going to try to get handguns into his tableau. An example would be Sifu Khan. He gains +1 survival and +3 combat for melee weapons. So we're going to go through our spoils cards and see if we can assign those to the players that will give them the most benefit. All right, I've spent a little bit of time and I've kind of come to these conclusions for dispersing our spoils cards. Some of them were pretty obvious. Paul Bailey, the bootlegger, has a special ability. It says discard an alcohol spoils card during an end turn phase to heal 1 point of psychological damage to each party member. So it would make sense, him being the bootlegger, to have that alcohol. Sifu Khan gains a link benefit for melee weapons, so it would make sense for him to have that. Most of the other ones did not apply and create links. As an example, Lee Watts has a blunt weapon or handgun would make his links, and Dimitri the Cleaner needed handguns. But what we do have is a party equipment, and that's this 5 classic 45 pistols. That is applied to each of the characters, so that means Dimitri would have his handgun ability fulfilled by that, and also Lee Watts would have his fulfilled by that 5 classic 45 pistols. So this is going to be our starting arrangement for the characters. I'm going to place those into the sleeves that I have to organize them, and then we're going to still take another look at some vehicles that we have. These are the vehicles that we have available to us. Some of them are very valuable. The semi-truck is worth 26 coins. The gyrocopter is worth 25. And the matching Baja buggies are worth 14. So they're very valuable items. The semi-truck offers a very valuable ability. And it says you may equip a second vehicle face down under this card. If the semi-truck is destroyed, immediately equip the second vehicle to your party. So that's it's pretty valuable. It gives us some flexibility there. So if we were to take, say, the semi-truck, it does give us benefits to combat and survival and diplomacy, mechanical and medical. Has a good carrying capacity. Does give us some aid to movement. So we would have to decide on if we want to carry an extra one underneath the card. And I would probably say the matching Baja buggies, and then we could sell that gyrocopter for $25. The gyrocopter does have some very great benefits. It says roll a d6 after movement. On a 1 or 2, draw 2 encounter cards, attempt 1 and discard the other. May be used in conjunction with another vehicle or vehicles. All bonuses are commutative. So that would be a good pairing, is the semi-truck with the gyrocopter. But the semi-truck has to be carried, that gyrocopter has to be carried by the semi-truck, and that can only be used when the semi-truck is destroyed. So that wouldn't really give us the benefit for that card. I think what I'll end up doing is doing what I had first said. We'll use the semi-truck, the matching Baja buggies will be put in the trailer, and we're going to end up putting the gyrocopter in our auction house, and we'll sell that for the 25 coins. And this ended up to be our starting setup for our characters. Now I've placed these in something that I created. I saw these from other players. Basically these are just sleeves that I've taped together, and it allows you to keep all the cards for that individual together without them being, moved here and there about. So it kind of keeps everything together, and then you can still see in the columns what advantages and totals they would have. So I kind of like that system, so I've kind of constructed a few of these, and we'll use those during the playthrough. Our final step in the setup is to log our resources and movement bonuses. We begin the game with 1 token on the board at our colony location, so that's going to give us a value of 1 on our resources. Our movement bonus is a function of any of the cards that we have in play. We do get a +2 to movement for our communication center, so we'll move that up to 2. And we're also going to get a +1 for our semi-truck. That'll give us a +3 movement bonus. Everything is set now, and we're ready for play. Our prestige level begins at 1, and our town health at 30. Now we have a character called Lee Watts, and as long as we have him, he gives us a +1 to prestige. So we're going to move our prestige marker from 1 to 2. One thing I'd like to mention is I'm using these little yellow cubes to mark when a character qualifies for their link ability. Whenever they're able to do that, I'm placing a cube there to remind me that those figures will be added into their totals. And we're ready to begin play. I'm going to bring up the Solo Variant 2 order of play on the screen. And our first step is the effects phase. Now during the effects phase, we're going to resolve in the following order if there were any world encounters or other card effects. And then we would apply any infected wound damage, discarding any characters who have reached their maximum damage or have 3 psychological damage. Now we have a special tactic as a part of our faction perks called River Traders. And it says each effects phase you may draw a spoils card. To keep it, pay a random player 1/2 its value, rounded up, in salvage coins. Now in this case, since this is a solo game, we'll be paying the bank. But that entitles us to a spoils card draw, and we'll see if we're able to purchase that item. That spoils card is revealed to be John Rambo's compound hunting bow.
Don't push it.
Ranged weapon bow. After each round of PvP, player versus player, choose 2 opposing characters and assign them each 1 point of damage. It costs 16 as a list price. We'd be able to buy it for 8. And that would end up giving us a increase in combat and survival. But I think that's a little expensive, and I think we'll pass on that. So that's going to go to the discard pile. And that'll complete the effects phase. We'll move on to the town business phase. And the first step in that phase is deal. Each player receives 1 action card. So we'll draw an action card. That card's revealed to be Professional Town Militia. Play during the town business phase. Attach this card to your town player mat, then discard it any time for one of the following. When your owned resource is claimed, cause an additional 2d6 damage to a party. NPCMs. Fail their task. Ignore a loss of up to 5 town health. And prevent any destruction, theft, kidnapping, or sabotage that affects your town. Has a value of 2. All right, well, we're right now in the town business phase. So we'll play that card, and we'll play that on our, we'll attach that to our town player mat. That's great. The next step in that phase is resource production. Receive all town health and savage coins produced. Well, we check the top of our display in the resources area, and it shows that we gain +1 to town health, and we receive a salvage coin. So we'll receive that extra salvage coin that gives us a total of 11 right now. And our town health is going to increase from 30 to 31. And our objective is to get either that track up to 80 or the prestige track up to 20. The next step is auction house. And with the solitaire rules, we draw 3 spoils cards. We can purchase any or all of them for their listed salvage coin value. All right, we'll draw 3 of those. And we find the following items. An alien plasma pistol, it's a relic, has a list cost of 19. Some camping gear, cost of 10. And mercenary armor has a cost of 14. Well, those 2 are going to be beyond our price range for the time being. The camping gear is something we could consider. It is stowable. It does cost 4 points to carry around. It would give us a 2-point boost to medical and a 3-point boost to survival. So that would be helpful. And I've decided I'm going to purchase that camping gear. We'll pay the 10 salvage cost, and we'll add that camping gear to one of our characters. The other 2 cards will go into the discard. And I've decided to add that camping gear to Lee Watts. That'll boost his survival rating up to about 10, and his medical up to 14. And now we move on to the town events chart roll. I'll bring that chart up on the screen. We're going to roll a 1d10 and then consult the chart to determine the effects on our faction's town. The roll is a 2, and that entitles us to gain 1 point of prestige and 2 points of town health. Well, that's great. Our prestige will rise from 2 up to 3. And our town health will move from 31 up to 33. And our next step is to make 2 rolls, one for each of the opposing factions that we're playing against on the OFTEC chart. That's the opposing faction town events chart. It'll be a 1d10 roll, and we'll resolve that twice. Now, we're playing a moderate level of complexity, so that's going to limit us to only 1 secondary event per turn. Our first roll will be for the Coalition of the Black Angel. The roll is a 2, and that's going to give the Coalition of the Black Angel a +1 to town health. There's no secondary effect. We'll move their town health marker from 30 and up to 31. Now we'll make a roll for the Syndicate. The roll is a 7, and that's going to gain them +5 town health and +3 prestige. There will also be a secondary effect, and we're going to have to draw and play 2 cards from the Red Dot Action deck. The Red Dot Action deck is the represents the factions that we're playing against, their activities against us. We'll move their town prestige up from 1 to 4, and their town health from 30 up to 35. And we'll reveal those one at a time. The first one is Cooperative Spirit. Play during an opponent's party exploits phase. This card may not be used without their consent. Move your party to their location to assist them or an encounter or mission card. Skill check. By adding your successes to theirs, divide any rewards or consequences equally, with the excess going to them. Neither party may attack or steal from one another for the remainder of this turn. Now these cards represent they simulate the other factions trying to stop your faction from rising to supremacy. That's a part of the solo rules. Now in this case, with this particular card, it says play during an opponent's party exploits phase. The card may not be used without their consent. Well, the card is just going to be discarded. It really can't be played in a solitaire environment. So we'll discard that and move on to the next. And the next card is Curse of the Gypsy Queen. Play during the effects phase on an opponent who attaches it to their town player mat. The player adds 1 to all their town event rolls. On a roll of 10, this card is discarded. All right, so that's something that's going to carry over on us until we would roll a 10 on our town event roll. All right, so I've placed that on our town player mat. It says here that it's supposed to be played during the effects phase on an opponent, but we'll just add that to our player mat right now so that we don't forget. And that'll conclude the town events chart phase. We'll move on to the financial period. The first step is a sell phase, and that allows us to sell spoils and action cards, town technologies, and town defense chips back to the bank for salvage coins. And I've decided to sell one item from our auction house. That's the gyrocopter. That'll get us 25 salvage coins. And then the Reaver Witch Doctor action card. That'll net us another 8 for a total of 33 salvage coins. That'll raise our total up to a total of 34, and then both of those cards will go into their respective discard piles. And the next step is purchase. We're able to buy Tier 1 town technologies for either 30 or 40 salvage coins, or upgrade an existing town technology to Tier 2 for a cost of 30 or 40. And then we're able to equip it. We're also able to buy town defense chips for 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30. It depends on how many you have at that point. And I think we're going to purchase a town item called Machinist Shop. That's going to cost 30 salvage points. That'll give us +5 to town health and 1 to our prestige, and will give us an automatic +1 success to any mechanical tests, which was our lowest skill level at 31 at that point. So we'll purchase that for 30 coins. We'll add that chip to our town display, and then we're going to move our town health and prestige up accordingly. That'll increase our prestige from 3 up to 4. And our town health from 33 up to 38. So we're making progress on those tracks. And now we move on to the party exploits phase. We begin with an NPC-MS step. If we had any non-player character mercenaries, we'd be able to assign them to tasks and move them on the map. Then we don't have any of those. The next step is our party exploits. Each player has 4 weeks to spend assigning their party the following deeds: a movement deed, cost of 1 week; encounter deed, 1 week; player versus player deed, 1 week; resource deed, 2 weeks; a healing deed, 2 weeks; or a mission deed for 3 weeks. Now, one of the best ways that we can increase our town health and potentially our prestige is by controlling areas of the map. Now on the map you'll see there's various symbols on the map. We have, these are resource locations, and those will add directly to our resources on our town display. During that town business step, when we refer to our resources, as that track goes up, we get more town health and additional salvage coins. So it's always good to control those things. Other items that are valuable to us would be these mission locations. Those are usually quite valuable, and that they'll give us quite a bit of rewards if we're able to complete those. And I think we're going to begin our party exploits step by doing a movement deed. A movement deed is the roll of a d6, adding any movement bonus that we have to the roll, and then that assigns us a certain amount of movement points that we're able to move our player marker on the map. Each space on the map costs a certain amount of movement points. As an example, Plains Hex is 1 movement point, a Radiation Hex is 3, a Mountain Hex is 2, and if you have combined terrain in the location, it's always the most restrictive of those two. All right, we're going to start out with a movement deed. We'll make a d6 roll, and we're going to add +3 to that value, and that's our current movement bonus. The roll is a 6. That gives us a total of 9 movement points. Now we're able to spend between 0 and 9 of those movement points. We don't have to spend any of those, or we can spend up to 9. And I think what we're going to do is we want to move probably towards these 3 mission locations in the American Southeast. So I think what we'll do is we're going to spend some movement points, and we'll try to get to this resource location. It's a little closer to the first of those closest mission locations. And so I think what we'll do is we'll move our marker towards that first resource location. So we're going to move that. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we spent 6 of our 9 available movement points. We've used up our first week of our party exploits phase. We have a total of 3 remaining weeks. And the next deed we're going to do is called a resource deed. Now we're on a resource location, so that will allow us to spend 2 weeks and attempt a resource deed. A resource deed is very simple. We're able to select an encounter card from any of the decks, Plains, Mountain, or City Radiation, and if we're able to fulfill that card and complete it, we'll gain control of that resource location. Now the encounters are graded by difficulty to some extent, starting with Plains cards being the easiest, moving up to Mountain cards, and finally into City Radiation cards being the most difficult. So we're going to draw a Plains card and encounter card and see if we can complete that and gain the control of that resource. And that card is titled Warriors Come Out to Play.
Warriors come out to play.
Is it just paranoia? Or are you really being followed? Maybe it's just the mutated strain of tobacco, but you've seen telltale signs of the highway predators for days now. Reconnaissance confirms it's the infamous Red Reapers gang prowling the lonely highways in patchwork vehicles looking for victims. The approaching cacophony of engines indicate there are too many for direct confrontation. The small city ahead may be your salvation. Its maze of ruined buildings and alleyways should provide the perfect escape. All right, now you're going to see some symbols on the card, and we're going to resolve those from left to right. The first symbol is 2 salvage tokens, and most times the cards will award the party a certain amount of salvage tokens. In this case, we're going to gain 2, so we'll add those to our player mat. The next symbol has a number before it, And that means we need to perform a survival test, and we need 3 successes in order to complete that. Now, to resolve a skill test, what's going to happen is we're going to roll a series of D10s, each one having the color of one of our character crowns: red, orange, blue, yellow, and in this case black, because we have a vehicle. So we're going to make a roll of 6 D10 and then assign those colored dice to each of the characters that represents, and then we'll analyze whether they produce a successful result. And there's our rolls. We're going to assign those dice to each of the character crowns, and then we'll analyze those to see how many successes each of the characters can produce. Now, a success is produced if the die roll is less than the total amount of the skill level of that character. In this case, Dimitri the Cleaner has a total survival rating of 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 1 for his link that he has is 8. We also gain plus 1 because we have water and supplies as one of our town abilities. So that would give him a total of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so our die roll would have to be 9 or less in order for him to get a success. In this case, he's rolled a 5, so we gain a success from Dimitri. Now, to help me in recording the number of successes that we have, I found one of my old, from the 1970s, dollars, dimes, and pennies counters. And so basically what this will do is, by clicking, it tells you 1 success, 2 success, 3 success. Then if you have to subtract, you flip it over and 2, 1, and 0. So we get 1 success for him, so we'll load it as 1. And then we'll take that die and move it to his character card to let us know that we've analyzed that. And now we'll do the same thing for character 2, that's Jane Doe. She has a total survival skill of 6, and the die roll is a 3, so she's past that. That'll give us 1 additional success. That's 2. And incidentally, we did also receive plus 1 success automatically for our water and supplies. So right now, as it stands, we have completed that task with 3 successes. We'll continue on just for the instructional benefits of it. Sifu Khan would be next. He has a total of 5 survival. He gains 1 from his linked ability, which is that he has a melee weapon. So that would give him a total of 6, and he rolled a 6, so that would be a success. We'll move that up to 4. Next is Paul Bailey. His survival skill is a 7. He rolled a 9 though, so that's a failure. Then we go to Lee Watts. His total survival is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for his link bonus. So what happens with this now, whenever you exceed 10, every time you get 10, that is considered a success. So we give him an additional success for that 10, and then his total was 12. So you take the 12 that he has minus the 10 that gave him that first success, that leaves 2. So you'd compare the die roll with the number 2 in this case, and if he would be able to equal or that or lower, would be an additional success. In this case, he didn't do it. His roll was a 4. And finally, we'll move on to our vehicle, which is the semi-truck. That has a survival skill of 2, and he rolled a 1. So that would be a success. That would be a total of 6 successes. Now, a roll of a 1 entitles you to a reroll, and you'll be able to re-roll that die, and in the event that you're able to roll that your skill level or less, you would gain an additional success. However, whenever a die roll of 10 occurs, you lose all successes that you may have gained to that point. So there's a risk involved by pushing it. But in this case, we've completed that. We have a total of 6 successes, and we've completed the first part of that encounter. The next part of that test is a mechanical test, and we need 3 successes for that as well. So we're going to re-roll the dice and repeat the procedure. Okay, those are our roles, and we'll assign those to the character cards. And we go through the procedure, this time checking mechanicals. We'll begin with Dimitri the Cleaner. He has a total of 7 mechanicals. He rolled a 9, so that's a failure. So we have no success for that. Move on to character number 2, Jane Doe. Her mechanical rating is a total of 7. She rolled a 2, so that'll give us a success. And we'll add 1 to our success total. We'll move on now to character number 3, Sifu Khan. His mechanicals are a total of 4. He rolled an 8, so there's no success there. We move on to Paul Bailey. His mechanical total is 6. He rolled a 9. That's a failure. We'll move on to Lee Watts. His mechanical total is 4. He rolled a 3. So that is a success. That's our second one. And finally, the semi-truck has a mechanical value of 1. However, they rolled a 6, and that's a failure. So we ended up with 2 successes. We needed 3 in order to complete that task. Now, we do have a action card that we can play, and that's just what I'm going to do. We're going to play an action card called Skill, My Boy. Play during party exploits phase. A character of your choice gains 1 success to a skill check. So we're going to assign that to one of those that failed. We'll give it to Dimitri. That'll give him an extra success. And we also gain a success from our machinist shop. So we actually gained a total of 4. I really didn't need to play that card. So I think rather than playing that card, I'm going to put that back into our hand, and we'll just subtract one of our successes. Gives us a total of 3. So we were able to complete that task, and we'll go back to the card and read what success is. And success reads, draw 2 action cards. The large, well-armed gang is hunting you. Playing hide and seek. You manage to lose them in the ruinous city. So we'll have to draw 2 action cards. And our 2 action cards are revealed to be Dash to Freedom. Play during a party exploits phase on any party after they've failed an encounter or mission card. They escape without suffering its negative effects. Has a value of 5 salvage. Next is Making a Break for It. Play anytime to discard your encounter or mission card before any dice are rolled. Keep the salvage coins. You cannot draw another card in its place. Or play anytime. Your party may avoid the theft of spoils cards or a vehicle destruction that has a value of 9 salvage points. And now we're able to place our resource marker on that location, and that tells us that we have control over that resource. Now we spent 3 of our 4 available weeks. We have to exhaust all of our weeks that we have. So we have 1 point left, and we're going to declare a movement deed. And we're going to try to get to that mission 6 location that is located in the mountains. We're going to roll a d6 and add our movement bonus that we have, which is currently at 3. We rolled a 1, so that gives us a total movement points of 4. And that's just enough to arrive at our mission location. We'll spend 1 point in the plains, another point in the plains, and then 2 movement points to get into the mountains. And that's going to complete our party exploits phase. And the last step is the end phase, the end of turn phase, and we're going to adjust our turn marker. So we'll move our turn marker from 1 to turn 2, and that's going to complete our first round of the game. We'll begin turn 2 with the effects phase, and our River Traders faction perk will kick in. Each effects phase you may draw a spoils card. To keep it, pay a random player 1/2 of the value rounded up in salvage coins. That card's revealed to be bars of gold. So that'll cost us 13 salvage coins. We don't have enough for that. So that is going to go to the discard pile. Next is the town business phase, and we'll go to the deal section. We're going to draw an action card. Card is listed as Tech Savvy. Play during a party exploits phase. Any party or character gains 2 successes towards a single technical skill check. Has a value of 1 salvage coin. We'll add that to our collection of cards. We're going to play the action card Trojan Horse of Kegs. Play during the effects phase to claim an unowned resource. That's great. And we're going to claim the resource Hex out in California. That's way out away from us, but that'll leave plenty of those near us that we can still claim. Now that's going to raise our resources up 1 level. And our resources will move up to the 2nd level. That'll give us +2 town health and 4 salvage coins per turn. Now it's the resource and production phase, and we're going to gain a total of +2 town health and 4 salvage coins. That'll raise us up to a total of 10 salvage. And our town health will move from 38 up to 40. Next is the auction house phase, where we're able to purchase any of these 3 spoils cards. The only one we can afford is the equipment medical card paramedic medical kit. And that would cost us a total of 10, and that's exactly how much salvage we have available. And I think we'll pass on purchasing those items. Those will go into the discard. And the next step is the town events chart roll. Now we are currently under the curse of the Gypsy Queen, and that says that we're going to have to add 1 to all of the town event rolls. If we can roll a 10, the card would be discarded. So we'll make our roll. Roll is a 7 that's modified to an 8, and that means we lose 1 town health. That'll move our health down from 40 down to 39. And now we'll make the rolls for the OFTEC chart. First one will be for the Coalition of the Black Angel. Roll is a 3. They're going to gain +2 town health and 1 prestige, no secondary effect. That moves their prestige to 2 and their town health to 33. Now we'll make the roll for the Syndicate. And their roll is a 10. They're going to gain +8 town health and +5 prestige. They'll also have a secondary effect. That moves their prestige to 9 and their town health to 43. And now for the secondary effect, we have to roll a d6 and find out what the result is. The roll is a 3, and it says you lose the last town technology you equipped and all effects apply. All right, that's not good. And to prevent that, we're going to play Professional Town Militia. And it says attach this card to your town player mat, then discard it anytime one of the following occur. And we're going to use prevent any destruction, theft, kidnapping, or sabotage that affects your turn. So that will prevent our loss of our town technology. We'll move on to our financial period. I have nothing I want to sell at this point. And we'll move on to the purchase section. I really don't have enough to purchase any town technologies or anything, so that'll complete that phase, and we'll move on to the party exploits phase. And I think we're going to start out with a mission deed. That's going to cost us 3 weeks, and the party must occupy a hex with a mission chip to draw a mission card. And we already are on a space with a mission chip, so we're going to draw a mission card. And that card reads, Road Warriors. Major gang activity is rising on this isolated stretch of pre-war highway. Overwhelming their prey in a blitzkrieg of armored vehicles and motorcycles, they pack massive firepower. No one is safe. Caravans, faction envoys, and even groups of unarmed refugees have gone missing. Those on foot vanish without a trace, while other groups turn up later. Vehicles flipped over in the ditch, riddled with bullet holes, and their carcasses picked clean by vultures. Order must be reestablished. The Council of the 10 Towns has tasked you to bring this fight to them. This is strictly a seek and destroy mission, so saddle up and lock and load. To aid you in your road war, the Council presents you with the first vehicle drawn from the spoils deck. All right. And that vehicle is revealed to be Classic All-American Car Performance Muscle Car. It adds 4 to movement, has a value of 19 salvage, gains 3 combat, 3 diplomacy, 2 mechanical, and 1 medical. Yeah, it's a good car. But I think we're going to stick with our semi-truck, and we'll add that vehicle to our auction house. Our first test is a mechanical test, and we're going to need 4 successes. And we'll make our roll for the mechanical test. We need 4 successes. And those are results. We'll place those on the character crowns and resolve the action. First player is Dimitri the Cleaner. He has a mechanical value of 7, and he rolled a 7, so that'll get us a success. Next is Jane Doe. She has a mechanical value of 7. She rolled an 8. That's a failure. So both of those dice have been resolved. Sifu Khan has a mechanical value of 4, and he rolled a 5, so that is a failure. Paul Bailey has a mechanical of 6. He rolled a 7. That is a failure. Lee Watts has a mechanical of 4. He rolled a 7. That's a failure. And the vehicle we have has a mechanical of 2. I'm sorry, a mechanical of 1, and we rolled a 2. So that's a failure. At this point, we've only got 1 of our 4 needed successes. Well, I have 1 card that would increase our successes by 1, but that would still be short of what we needed. So there's nothing much we can do. We'll have to read the fail conditions. And the fail condition reads, lose 2 prestige and your vehicle. Then take 7d6 damage. The RPG comes out of nowhere. Battered and broken, you awaken hours, maybe even days later. You must have been thrown from the flaming wreckage during the crash. You survey the blood and debris covering the highway as you limp away. Well, we're going to play an action card that is going to help us, and it's called Dash to Freedom. Play during the party exploits phase on any party after they've failed an encounter or mission card. They escape without suffering the negative effects. So that was a great card for us. Saved us from losing a vehicle, amongst also a lot of wound damage. And we have 1 week of operations left, and we're going to use that as a movement action. Our movement bonus is +3. Here's the roll. We rolled a 4, so that's modified to a 7. We have 7 movement points to use. And I think we're going to head towards that resource location to the south of us. And we're going to move as follows. We have 7 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll set us up for next turn. Now it's our end turn phase, and we're going to advance the turn marker from 2 to 3. And taking a look at our victory tracks, we've got the Syndicate in the lead with 9 prestige, followed by us with 4, and then at the bottom, Coalition of Black Angel with 2. And on the Town Health Board, they have a total of 43, We're next with 39, followed by Coalition of the Black Angel at 33. So that'll complete turn 2, and we'll move on to turn 3.